love that music. I don't know about y'all, but I am always over here getting my little jam on while I'm waiting. But hello everyone. It's me. Thank you for joining me once again. I'm your host Kim, and welcome to the Village. This is the Conversations with Kim talk show, and we are here every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so, just excited about tonight's topic. And before I get into that, I wanted to invite you to interact, to comment, ask questions of me, because I will be sharing my own personal experience. And so I think that this topic is very sensitive, and we can definitely dialogue about this for hours, but I'm going to try to cut it down to 30 minutes, and then hopefully I'll get some comments, and then we'll be able to address those as well. But tonight, we are going to be talking about racism. And for sure, that is the hot topic outside of the elections in the USA that is happening amongst the citizens. And I don't know if there's enough dialogue, or, well, maybe, I don't know if there's enough change going on, if there's enough legislation, but I just felt compelled to come on and share with you a little bit about my experience. And, hopefully that'll give you some insight into who I am as a person and how I view racism. So, hey, Audrey, thank you for joining. So looking forward to your comments as well. So I first wanted to identify what is racism. And I went and I looked it up to see how would racism be described to a child. And what I found out was it says it's the belief that certain races of people are by birth and nature superior to others. They also said that discrimination or hatred based on race. So that kind of, sums it up, for the adults. But for those that are younger that might not know, that's kind of what racism is, that a group of people feel like they are better than another group of people, and they treat them harshly as a result of it. So let me just give you a little bit of my background. For those of you watching in the U.S., or for those of you watching outside of the U.S., I was born in the northern part of the United States. And anyone can tell you that, being raised in the South and being raised in the North is a totally different experience. So for me, I was not raised where there was a lot of racism. I went to school with Black, white, Indian, did all ethnicities. They were at my school and they were my friends. And, my cousins have dated and married. And so our families are like this, up north, because we just didn't have that issue. So we didn't have race talks. We had friend talks. If I like you, I like you. And if I didn't, I didn't. And we didn't look at it as a color. So as a child, I wasn't necessarily groomed in that type of a situation. And so that really was my foundation. So that's what I kind of had to build on. And so I think I really didn't even wake up to racism until I went into the military. And so here I am, basically a young adult, and I'm off in the military, and I'm having experiences that didn't make sense to me because they didn't correspond with what I was experiencing at home. So, and so it wasn't a lot in the military. That wasn't my experience. I know some people might say, well, I had it a lot in the military. Not for me. I saw a little bit, but it still was foreign. And I just kind of ignored it and kept doing my thing, because in the military, of course, I had, Black friends, white friends, all ethnicities. So it still was a part of my core not to discriminate against someone because of how they looked. So I can honestly tell you that when I moved into the South, and I've been living in the South now for over 20 years, um, that's when I really kind of like just felt it. I was very much aware of it, that the people that I was around, there were groups of people in different places, and you had to either be in this group or that group, or these two groups didn't come together, so you had to come over here and hang out, or come over here and hang out, but y'all didn't hang out together. And it was just a really interesting and weird scenario for me to kind of digest. I think the biggest situation I saw was when I lived in Louisiana, and and this is going to sound weird, but I couldn't figure out, where are the Caucasian people? Where are the white people? Because I just didn't see any. And so I kind of felt like, well, wow, this state is, all African American, okay, well, go for it. But they were like, well, no, they just don't come on this side of town, and they're on that side of town, which was really weird to me. I'm like, well, so you stay in a certain part of town because of your color? Like, what? Like, okay. So it was really interesting. So for me to have diversity when I lived in Louisiana, and again, this is my experience. So if you live in Louisiana and that's not yours, okay. But when I first moved in there, that was a question that I asked the people that were there. And so I had to make a conscious decision to go and shop in other areas, just so that I can have diversity. I don't want to ever be in a situation where I am only, with African American people. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with our people. I love our people. I am our people. So I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that I believe in diversity. I believe in embracing the human race. I believe that I can't have a full living experience if I don't expand my thinking past what African Americans do. So when I meet Indian women, I have conversations on them. Hey, Ezra, I have conversations with them. When I meet my Spanish friends, we have conversations and we deep dive into each other's culture, because now you're my friend. So clearly everything's on the table. So I get an opportunity to ask them stuff. They get an opportunity to ask me stuff, because yes, I'm their Black friend. And so they should, they might ask me something and I'll say, don't ask nobody else like that. You can ask me, but don't ask nobody else like that. So, now and you got the information. But I think it's very important to be able to have friends from other ethnicities, other races, and have sensitive conversations so that you can understand their culture, you can understand their struggle, you can understand a little bit about them as a person. And not saying that they represent their whole race, but you can at least have a glimpse into their culture. So so that's a little bit about my background. So let me tell you that why it took me so long to know or identify racism when it came to me. I'm sure I experienced it, but it was so subtle. It was so covert. It was so undercover that people would say things to me like, you don't act like the other Black girls. And I didn't know how to respond to that. They would say things like, I wish my hair would do different styles. Like, can I touch it? And these aren't my friends. So, my friends, we've already had hair conversations. I've been in their head, they've been in mine. So, we did all that. These are just subtle people that were kind of like, in my opinion, trying to throw shade or make me feel a certain way. But because I had never been exposed to it, it did nothing to me. But now I see, hindsight's 2020, that they were trying to subtly make me feel inferior. Um, and even today, I'm gonna tell you that this is something that I hear from some of my friends. Even today, they'll say, "You're the whitest black person I know." So I understand where they get that from, but I don't understand why that is why what white is. Is it educated? Is it articulate? Like, is it being clear in how I communicate? Is it professional? Because that's just being a human. So it's not a, white thing. It's not a Caucasian thing. So, and then the other thing is, oh, well, when we talked to you on the phone, you didn't sound, well, you know what I mean? I didn't, they don't know how to say that they didn't know that I was an African American woman on the phone. And so, hey, Miss Sunshine, they didn't have no idea how to express that. And I'm thinking, how was I, were you expecting me to speak in Ebonics? Were you expecting me to speak in broken English? I don't understand why that would even come out of your mouth to even be a part of the conversation if we're conducting business. So, there are different things that are very subtle, very covert. They just kind of like slide it on in there. And I have just learned to kind of, depending on the situation, I really just kind of ignore it, because I know that if I address it, that especially working for the federal government, it could not, end well for me. So, most of the time I will just ignore it unless it's so blatant that I would say, you do realize that that was a very insensitive thing to say, right? And then of course they'll always say, well, I was just playing. Oh, I was just kidding. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like the blank stare, and the blank stare and no blink, because I'm not playing, and I'm very serious. It was very insensitive and it was very rude, and I said what I said. So sometimes you do have to kind of, draw the line and make things very clear for people. So listen, I know y'all in the comments, I need y'all to talk back at me. We got about, I'm 18, 19 minutes in. We got 30 minutes. I want to hear from you. I want to know, is what I'm saying, is it resonating with you? Come on, because we all have had some experiences, no matter what your ethnicity is, no matter where you come from, you've had an experience. So, so until those comments come in, I'm going to tell you, it was not until last year, 2019, that I had my very first in your face, can't deny it, racist experience that shook me to my core, because I wasn't prepared for it. I do understand that my ancestors have experienced some things. I do get that. I don't take anything away from them. They struggled and they laid the foundation so I can be here. And so, but I personally had never experienced it blatantly in your face. It was last year, and I was in Oklahoma, and I was in Oklahoma City And a friend and I went to the upscale mall because we can, and because we had the money to buy whatever we wanted. And we went into several stores. And when we walked into the stores, the people literally turned their back. No one said welcome to, Dillard's, Macy's, whatever department stores. They have some weird stores there I never heard of before, but they were kind of like on the upscale side or whatever. And we went in and they literally turned their back, talked to each other. We walked around and they, I did want to buy something, but at that point I understood the message that we don't want your business. I had never experienced that before. So we went into several stores and we weren't asked, can we help you? We had people that would, follow us from a distance. Like there was always someone there to look to see what we were doing, but no one asked us, not one time, did we need anything? Yeah, Audrey, I believe it. Every region has their own ignorance. And so what really stood out for me was, I was there for work and our safety person gathered everyone in a room and said, we have a lot of rednecks in this state. Now, this is safety. They're there to keep us safe. And the safety guy for our company put us all in the room and said, we have a lot of rednecks in this state. And we are going to do our best to make sure that you don't have any interactions. There's a certain part of the state that we wouldn't send anyone of color. And we also want you to know that if you go to a meeting and you are uncomfortable and something is said, then you should just go ahead and make an excuse to make a phone call, and then you let us know, and we'll take care of it. Well, for me, I'm not making a phone call. That's totally unacceptable. Here I am out in the wild blue yonder in the wilderness and at a meeting by myself, and then some weird comment is made. I'm not going. If you're already telling me, you're already giving me a safety briefing that my life could be in jeopardy, and that if I need to just make a phone call, what are you going to do? Teleport me out? Are you going to help bring a helicopter in and get me out? No. And so that was totally unacceptable. And then, and so I was trying to still manage in my mind the emotions I was having. I was still trying to be a team player, and I was still trying to say, okay, Kim, you can do it. Until I was on the interstate and I was getting onto the highway, and there was someone coming behind me getting on the highway, and apparently I was going too slow. So he got right up behind me, came around me, and then pushed my car over and ran us off the road. I need you to know right then I was ready to go. So I had already, that I had never experienced anything so in your face, so outright, so and I know that everyone's experience isn't like that. I'm sure Oklahoma is a wonderful place. When I went to Tulsa, it was thebomb.com. I'm talking about Oklahoma City. And that was my experience. And that's what the show is, Conversations with Kim. So I just really wanted to kind of just, say that my background did not necessarily agree with my present state. So it was really hard for me to process. And so even now, as a 54-year-old woman, it is, it's a part of my reality, clearly, but it's still challenging for me to kind of wrap my mind around how people can hold on to hate and and champion it like it's a cause. Like, do you just wake up angry every day? I don't get it. So it's not like I'm oblivious to it. Um but I just feel like if I'm in a situation where everyone looks like me, everyone thinks like me, everyone dresses like me, talks like me, then I'm living a shallow life. That's kind of what I think, you know. And so I see that you all have commented a little bit, but I was hoping for a little bit more. Ezra, I don't know if you're still with me, but listen, I need you to come through. Audrey, what are your thoughts on this? Bernard, I know you're there. Tapello, I know you in the background. Logan, I know you in the background. So I'm just saying, this here is something that we could really put some things in the comments that will, when others read it, will maybe have their eyes opened. That's all I'm really trying to do, is open up someone else's eyes to see that this is a real experience for us. And so, we're getting towards the end, and I need to wrap it up. But this is what I thought of recently, and I made a post about it maybe a couple weeks ago. But I said something of the nature that if you have not been born, if you were not born African American, then you can't understand 100% what it's like that your great 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 grandma, great 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 grandma, mama, cousins, uncles, everybody was born into a system that treated them different because of the color of their skin. And you can't understand what it does to the psyche to go into a survival mode in order to survive, that you're now placed into different pockets in life and having to adjust or having to find creative ways to survive. It's you become you're basically a survivalist. They have that show where you're out on this island and and they leave you out there. We're on an island, and it's called the African American, the Black Island. And we this is my island right here, and I am in a system that does not recognize all the time me as a human being, and all those subtle, covert, oh my gosh, you're so pretty, and I'm hey Sherry, all those little comments, those things are very you have to learn how to process that and still maintain your sense of self and dignity of who you are as a person. And so like, yes, Audrey, racism is a global disease and an evil sin. And Bernard says we need to stop making the assumption and stop perpetuating stereotypes about about it. And so, I treat each person that I come in contact with as an individual. And so I just appreciate all of you for coming in. Please watch it again, share it on your page, and please come back. My time is up. And I just want to say in closing, silence creates distance, but conversations with Kim builds the village. Thank you. Bye-bye.